Hi everyone.
Hello.
Ooh, I know.
Really
About
loud.
that. I'm Anna,
I'm Jess.
and today we're coming to talk to you about two of the projects that we work on together. Jess and I met, well, I think longer ago. Jess thinks more recently. We discovered today.
Yeah, we'll start and talk a little bit about how we met and how we came to work together. We graduated together from a degree in illustration at Brighton University back in 2007.
There we are.
When we were students, we had really different practices, didn't we? We were completely inspired by different things. Anna, you were...
I thought I'd gone too far.
Oh, there we go, yeah. Anna, you
I was
were...
all about, well, I still am actually, all about the pound shop, get my nails done, Deptford Market,
Pat
more
Butcher.
is more, Pat Butcher.
Chat magazine.
Yeah. I actually said that in my interview for Brighton. I went in and they were like, so what magazines do you read? And I was like, Chat magazine, Bella. And then I came out, my mum was like, how did the interview go? And I was like, they asked what magazines I read. And she's like, well, what did you say? And I was like, Chat magazine. She's like, you went to say like Dazed and Confused, what's wrong with you?
I was into completely different stuff. The work that I was doing was very monochrome. It really concentrated on negative space. It was really minimalist. I looked at architecture and Japanese culture, Japanese graphic design. I mean, we were really good friends at university, but there was no chance we were ever going to work together. We just opposite ends of the spectrum.
We sat next to each other, but Jess actually built a wall between the two of us because I had so much stuff. And Jess is like, minimal, clean.
Yeah, I would focus on
off.
minimalism and negative space, and Anna would focus on filling space, which hence the wall. So yeah, it was quite interesting. When we graduated, we both went to work for Chrissy McDonald's and John Short, who was shooting a lot of Chrissy's stuff at the time. And we were both prop making. I mean, it was more in line with what Anna was doing. I still had aspirations to be a photographer one day. But yeah, it was a year of working together and as sort of set designers and prop makers.
I think that's what opened your eyes to being a still life photographer, is working with them and seeing what John was up to and being like, can I do something?
Yeah, I was always looking over at the photography side of things whilst I was there making a washing machine out of cardboard. But when that campaign finished that we worked on, it was the I Am campaign for Orange, and I went off to work as an assistant for Julian Broad, a portrait photographer, and you were doing set design. and it wasn't for a couple of years until I went freelance, because I was full-time assisting with this one photographer, that I started to discover my own work and kind of re-experiment with what I was doing. This is rather embarrassing to show.
We shared a studio at this point, I should say, and then I was doing my own thing, and then we decided that we probably should try and work together since Jess was a photographer and I was there making stuff. And Jess is really embarrassed to show this.
I'm embarrassed to show it, but it's a really good thing to show because it was based on this trip that I did to Dungeness.
We did.
It was the trip that I did to
Dungeness.
and it was really inspired by all the flotsam and jetsam, like discarded, and didn't really know what to do with it, but I felt that it would lend itself really well to some kind of photo shoot that didn't involve people. So I went to Anna, and you were really up for it, and we went down to Dungeness together and loaded up our car with all this crap, and took it back to the studio and laid it out and started to play with compositions and work with like how we could bring these discarded things to life and give them a new lease of life and put them on a bit of a pedestal. And kind of what came out of those explorations was this shoot.
And it was like, I think it was where we kind of realised that where my maximalism and Jess's minimalism could come together and create a happy medium, and I could make Jess be more colourful and she could make me be more clean.
Yeah, so it kind of, we suddenly realised for the first time in many years, having known each other, that this was the start of quite an interesting process and quite an interesting collaboration of ideals.
Yeah. Today, Jess, we were in a meeting and she said it was 3 years ago, but it wasn't. It was more like 6 or 7, so that's the kind of time frame.
I have a really warped sense of time. I don't know where it goes.
But fast forward 3 years.
Only
6
3.
years. And we have been working together non-stop, on and off, and somewhere between the two.
Yeah, exactly. But we're going to show 2 projects. We do a lot of commercial work together, but the projects that we're going to show today are personal. And
I think always our personal projects inform our commercial work, so we're really keen on doing as much personal projects as possible. And this is something that it's nice that featured. It was called She Said, and it came off the back of an email that I received. I don't know how big that is. And basically, there's a girl in my building who I've never met, and I got an email, and it said, while I was away, you might have got a letter, and 2 people in the building got the letter, and I'm really worried about the letter that everyone's received. And basically, it might have concerned you, but I just want to assure you all that all my clients are really well vetted, and since my injury, people have got quite upset because I've not been taking on as many clients. And I was kind of reading, I was like, what injury? And then she's like, I'm really well respected in the dominatrix industry. She's like the lady that lives above me. I was like, what? And then suddenly I was like, what injury? Like, there's so many questions. But I've never met her, and I still don't know who she is in the building. So
she said that a lot of her clients have taken her new journey into becoming
more of a graphic designer. It's a bit of a shock. Anyway, so I showed Jess the email naturally. I was like, Mum, Dad, look at this. Jess, look at this. You're going to love it. And then we're like, oh, there's a project in that.
Yeah, and we just thought there was something really exciting behind this idea of a kind of powerful, independent, kind of slightly mature woman, lady,
graphic designer,
who has this secret life. This is an example of some of the references that we exchanged between us in the lead up to these projects.
This is actually for another project that we did, wasn't it, for Twin?
Yeah, well, one was from one project, and this one was like, I think you called in this pair of amazing latex pants for the
Jess
shoot.
made me put them on the shoot and then took pictures, and then we didn't actually use them, but she was threatening to put the picture in.
We've edited down the references that we're going to show you tonight quite heavily, by the way. This is basically what made the cuts.
Yeah, some of it is.
I bet you dread to think what we might have shown, but I guess what emerged from that starting point was this project.
Yeah, it's always about material and texture, and I collect a lot of stuff, and I think taking those things and seeing what relates and sort of placing those things together and just getting the right level of grown up and like an innuendo and looking at something and being like, is it, or is that just me? I think that's quite important to the stuff that we do.
Yeah, we really like to be quite suggestive and kind of tactile with the materials. So this project's called Visual Noise, and it was a response to a brief about sound, and we were really interested in the descriptive terms that sound designers use to describe certain qualities of sound.
Yeah, because it comes from, we do a lot of animation stuff together, and I think that we've been commissioning sound to go with those animations, and then because we don't know what you're meant to say in these scenarios, so we'll sit in the studio and be like, we want it more like, well, Jess tends to get really animated and start doing the sounds and stuff like that, and then we were like, there's actually descriptive words, so when you go and sit in with the sound designer, they actually use the correct words, so we quite like this disparity between us making odd sounds and being like, it needs to be more, well, we didn't use the correct thing, but more breathy or something, and then the real side of it.
It needs to be crunchy. And then you're like, that's really kind of onomatopoeic, or is it onomatopoeic? It just like generates a real visual, those descriptive terms. So this project was about translating those descriptive terms for sound back into visuals. And also like bringing that element of innuendo into it.
Again.
So this is rich and wet, tinny and tight, hard and juicy.
We obviously picked the ones we like the best.
And it was also, this was for an exhibition that was here just a couple of weeks ago on that wall over there, which kind of brings us quite nicely back around to where we started.
Thanks very much.